All right, so this episode is going to be I'm telling a story about Tito Beveridge, who started Tito's Vodka. So we should be drinking Tito's Vodka, but with how beautiful it is, there's no reason we shouldn't have some sun sips in hand.
Cheers.
So cheers. So in February of 2017, I get invited onto a phone call with about 10, 12, maybe 15 guys from a mastermind that I'm in, right? And during that call, I learned that one of the guys in the mastermind was at the Four Seasons in Hawaii, sitting in the hot tub, talking to another entrepreneur, and that entrepreneur happened to be Tito Beveridge, who owns Tito's Vodka. And whether you knew his last name was Beveridge or not, it's like having a dentist with the last name White, right? It's kind of just fitting for whatever the profession is. I end up hopping on this call, and Tito Beveridge, super, super cool, shared his story, like cut from the same kind of cloth as us, like grew up in Texas and couch surfed and didn't come from money or anything along those lines, like very self-made, and heard his entire story. He shared like 2 hours of this story. And over the course of 2 hours, he shared a bunch of different business lessons and stuff that he learned. But the number one thing that he mentioned was, he initially was hiring people, and as he was hiring people and growing his business out, he thought originally he needed to hire people who had like the skill set, who had distilled vodka before and worked in these types of beverage dispensaries and all this kind of stuff. And he'd hire them because they had the degree or the accolades or the experience, but they ended up being like a crappy person, And he's like, dude, I don't like going to work with these people. Like, let me just hire my friends, right? And so he started hiring people who were either friends of his or friends of friends or people who at least had a good attitude. And as he hired people, he's like, I can train them on the skills. I can train them on the techniques and the strategies in order to distill vodka and distribute beverages and all that kind of stuff. But I can't train them on having a good attitude and showing up with purpose and showing up with resourcefulness and problem solving and being a positive light to the company and uplifting other members of the team. And when he started hiring for that, I heard one person, then 2 people, then 5 people, then 10 people. And today, I think there are around 400 employees. He's like, dude, when you walk into our company and our establishment, like it's unbelievable. Like you can feel the energy, you can feel the positivity, you can feel just good positive energy and high-fiving people, and everybody wants to do things that pay it forward. Everybody wants to do things that make a bigger impact. And he goes, that was the differentiating factor as I grew my business, that I hired people with good attitude, not necessarily for the skill set. I hired for attitude. And I think back about like when we were growing our business and when you came on board, which was 2015, 9 years ago. Congrats, buddy.
Thanks.
Welcome to the almost decade
club.
Partnership.
Yeah.
And so I think back to that and like, you're like, dude, whatever it looks like, let me come and work for you. You're like, you don't need to pay me anything. I'll figure it out. I'll do this. And it was like, that was a good attitude. I wasn't looking to hire an intern. I wasn't looking to hire anybody because I wasn't sure how to structure it and all that kind of stuff. There was a lot of moving parts back then. But you came in with such a good attitude. I was like, well, dude, I have nothing to lose because he's willing to bring value and figure it out, and he had a resourcefulness. So what do? We worked out an apartment for you for the summer, and then it was like, I think there was like some sort of a comp plan where it was like $1,000 for a house as we were like flipping houses.
Yeah.
It was something along those lines. So that way you made a couple of bucks as you went along, but it was based on commission, and your housing cost was down. But it allowed us to then start working together, right? And see how you like working with us, how we like working with you. And eventually by the end, you're like, I'm not leaving.
Yeah.
and so you never left. And, and you came in as an intern, and because you brought good attitude, you learned the skill set, you were resourceful, you didn't bring problems, you brought solutions with those problems. Hey, here's something I'm facing, but here's a couple different options on how I can create some solutions around it. And we were able to all grow. You invested in yourself, you started reading the books, you started attending the masterminds, hanging around the right people and the right influences. And then eventually, within, 5-6 years, you vested into equity into the investment company, and then we launched the education company, which you're a partner in as well. And now you're a partner, right? And then I think about other people we've hired, right? We just had to let someone go, which is, I friggin' hate letting people go. It's like, I want everybody to succeed, but it's like when somebody comes in and they're only taking, and they're only transacting, and they're only just trying to pull things away of what's in it for them, as opposed to building up the entire team. And it's like, well, what am I going to get out of this? Well, you're going to make an investment into your future, and here's what it can look like. You can be a partner eventually, invest into equity and this and that, if you do more than you get paid for today in order to make an investment in your future, right? But you got to come with a good attitude. And this individual didn't have a good attitude, complained about a lot of stuff. Everything was delayed. They didn't have anything else going on. There was some other stuff happening in their life on the spouse's side where we kept on keeping them on payroll with us just to make sure that they had a good setting and good setup. And then, offer, hey, can you do this? Can you do that? And it was just pushback and pushback. And I felt like I was pulling this person the entire time. And it's such a dramatic difference in my mind of hiring somebody who figures it out, right, and has a good attitude. And it's like, yeah, I'll figure it out, whatever that looks like. And it's like the total opposite side of the spectrum of dragging somebody along and trying to make, it's like, what did Jim Rohn say? He's like, you can carry one person on your back. If you're really strong, you can carry 2 people on your back, but you can't carry 3 people on your back. And this is like somebody who was on my back that it was just pulling me down, and it was just so painful. And so, that I guess my point is, it really resonated with me, that story, and looking back on the story from Tito Beveridge, how he built his business and how we've built our business. Dude, it's about surrounding ourselves with great people with good attitudes.
Yeah, I've always thought that, one of the bigger things that I bring to the table is I'm not above doing any item. Mm-hmm. If you need me to do, and I like this about our team and our company a lot, we don't ask other people to do things, but if we do, we really kind of need them to do it. Mm-hmm. We're not just asking you just to have you do it. We're asking you because I really need help on this. Mm-hmm. And if I'm not asking you, then I can handle it myself. But that's a big thing. If you need me to go drive down to Georgia to go look at stuff, mm-hmm. I know there's other people that could do that, and if you're asking me to do it, then it means I have to do it, basically. Yep. That we need me to do it. So,
we faced enough hurdle, or there's something else going on where it's like, dude, we need somebody who can, we can send anybody down to Georgia to go and walk a property, but it's like, we need somebody really with ownership mentality and this and that and whatever else.
Yeah, then you just do it.
Really get it done and know that it's done and trust what it looks like, right? And that's something that comes with time.
Sure.
It's something that comes with, building that trust up over a long time takes a lot of work, it takes a lot of commitment, it takes a lot of effort, and a lot of opening the doors on the person who's giving the trust. I think it's really, really impactful knowing how many people on our team that we can trust because we've been working with everybody for so long. Dude, you've been there for 9 years. Carlin has been on board for full-time 9 years, but I was working with him for 3 or 4 years prior to that. Marty's been on since early 2015. Yep, 9.5 years. Abby's been in since 2017. Stu has been around since 2013.
Yeah.
Dude, we have our core team has been around for a long time, you know? And I think it shows that loyalty is one of our key core values too.
Yeah. And there have been so many waves, and there's so many ups and so many downs. And it's pretty cool to see that the original 5 are all still hanging out.
Still.
But on the other hand, to my point of, if you're getting asked for something, we really need to do it. And if you say no, you can't do it, you really can't do it. There's something significant where you can't move something around and do it. So I think that's kind of an unsaid thing amongst the team.
Yeah.
If you say hey, can you go to Georgia? I'm like, dude, I can't.
Yeah.
Why? I have some a wedding to go to or whatever to go to. It's the team's pretty awesome.
Yeah. I think you hear hire slow, fire fast. I think hire fast, fire fast, which is really, really hard for me because I really want everybody to succeed, and I want everybody to be on the train the entire time that this thing's on its journey. And the reality is some people are meant to get on and then get off at the next stop, you know? And it's just, I think when you start having a conversation about somebody more than once, second time, a third time, dude, you should not have a conversation about somebody not performing more than 2 times. If you have it a third time, they got to go. Mm-hmm. They got to go. Or if they got a bad attitude or something like that, doesn't meet the core values of the team, or if it, because then it starts infecting the rest of the team, right? And the rest of the team has bad sentiment about that individual, and just, dude, it creates this cancer that starts spreading, and it's an ugly, ugly situation over time.
Mm-hmm. I think it just sell the vision. You just got to sell this vision. Tim obviously can do that. You know, I think you need to sell this vision and really put in that, you know, things are going to take a lot longer than you want them to. Mm-hmm. You know,
it's a good point.
Yeah, it's not going to be, you know, in your mind, I can get this done in 1 year. 1 year turns into 2-3 years, pretty quick.
Yep.
Yeah, and sell the long term, like we were just talking about with Legacy Family. You know, the 3 year mark. You know, put 3 years into anything, and yeah, it'll
expect
be
3 to
worth
5
it.
years. Nothing good comes in less than 3 to 5
Yeah.
years, right? Like, everybody wants to get rich quick. Everybody wants that. But anybody who's been around the block long enough realizes that that's a false hope. That's a false pretense, and probably sees through that and thinks you're either naive or you're lying to them, mm-hmm. right? If somebody comes to me and says, hey, this is a get rich quick, dude, this is like a for sure thing, make a bunch of money in a very short amount of time with little to no effort, I'm like, dude, not even interested, because I've been down that road. I've been down that road a dozen times, and I've lost time and I've lost money every single time. Like, to your point, I think selling the pain of the role is a big deal, right? Like, when we hired Lisa, I tried to paint the worst friggin' picture possible for what this job is. This is a job where I'm gonna hire you, you're gonna be an asset manager, you're gonna travel around, you're gonna go and live in whatever the most headache property I have is at that time. You have to live in there with a bunch of tenants who aren't paying rent, with a bunch of staff who's not doing their job, in a property that's been neglected by property management. We're gonna take it in-house. We're gonna recapitalize this thing. We're gonna infuse a bunch of money. You're gonna deal with a bunch of contractors. You're gonna have to kick a bunch of people out. You're gonna have to deal with the city and navigate the political landscape. And then as you make it nice over the next 6 to 12 months, and as soon as it like turns the corner, I'm gonna pull you out. I'm gonna put you at the next shittiest property I have, right? Like that was the conversation I had with her. But here's what we're gonna do. You're gonna get paid X number amount of salary. You're gonna get equity in every single one of these deals in perpetuity for as long as we own them. And we're gonna build up a net worth of multiple 7 figures with you over the course of the next 3, 5, 7 years. And that, painting the vision, showing where we're gonna be, but also addressing the hurdles, addressing the pain points of what they're gonna face, and making it as painful as possible, and painting the worst picture possible on the front end. If they can see past that, dude, now the expectation is set way down here. Yeah. And when it's not that bad and it's like up here, it's great. But if you paint the expectation of up here and it's slightly below, even if it's still up here, it's an incongruency in the hiring process, an incongruency in the vision casting. And so, dude, I'd rather set it way down here and they actually get this rather than set it up here and just slightly below, because they're gonna understand it's better, because the expectation, man, and the communication on that front is usually where the disparity comes in, mm-hmm. right? They expect something, you expect something else. It was never communicated properly, and now because of that gap, you're losing good people that you just didn't set a good expectation with, because it wasn't set the proper way. I think another thing is, like, you get the good attitude right out of the gate. I think there's probably some things you can do in order to see loyalty, is like, how long were they with their last company or the last several companies? If it's somebody who job hops every 12 months, that's probably not a very loyal person. But if they were in that role or that industry or that career for a long amount of time, 5 years, 7 years, that's why a lot of a lot of the management positions or whatever, like they want 7 years of experience because they know it takes that long to become an expert at it, and they want to see a commitment to something for at least that long if they're going to hire a career position. So looking at the resume and just seeing how much they job hop. And then the other thing is like, I hire people, I'm like, how quickly can you start? We need you immediately. Well, you know, I want to do the right thing for my existing employer. I want to give them 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks notice. And I know you want me to start now, but like I just, you know, I have a lot of loyalty to whatever. I like that,
Yeah.
right? I actually kind of, you know, pit them into that position to see how they respond. Oh yeah, hey, screw them, man. I'm ready to jump ship right now. That's typically somebody who's not as loyal as somebody who's like, let me do the right thing and let me, you know, give them the opportunity to just, I want to transition over to the new person. I want to, you know, hand everything over and blah, blah, blah. Like that shows what their level of commitment is to somebody that they've already kind of have one foot out the door with. And if they have that much loyalty to somebody that they're planning on leaving, imagine what that looks like if they come into your organization and you know, how loyal they could be.
Do the same to us.
Yeah.
If we had somebody that was on the team that did the work but didn't, just to recap, quite fit in with like the culture of the company,
Right.
I think we would have no problem with it. I think they would weed themselves out at some point. They would end up jumping ship at some point just because obviously it's not the best fit culturally for everybody.
Yeah, I think if it's like something like, I agree with that. I agree that if you got a good worker, you want to keep that good worker.
Yeah.
Unless they blatantly break your core values, right? If they're lying, if they're cheating, if they're stealing, if they are talking down to other people, if they're something that is toxic in their behavior, then I would fire them, right? But I think if it's like, I don't know, different level of ambition or a different level of something else where it's like, hey, I'm going to come here, I'm going to do my work,
Yeah, but I don't really need that much more. It's just like, hey, this is what I want.
Yeah.
I'm good at this. Great.
Yeah, I think, and we're trying to push them along, or we would just find the right seat for them. I see a lot of people hiring and putting the right person in the wrong seat, right? They're trying to take that person who doesn't want to grow, and they put them into some growth-oriented role.
Yeah.
It's like, listen, some people are B players, right? And that's okay. Not everybody can be an A player. You can elevate the A players. You need to identify that probably based on work ethic and resourcefulness and good attitude and ambition level. But there's some B players who are just good workers. They like to stay in their lane. They don't want to go anywhere. They want to check out at 5 o'clock and not have to deal with it again until 9 a.m. the next day. And for some roles, that's okay.
Sure.
For some other roles, that's not okay. You need to have a little bit more of an ownership mentality over it. But just realizing the pay is directly correlated to what that looks like too. You know, and so if you want to get paid like an owner, or you want to get paid these larger sums of money, you need to be working inside the cracks of your schedule, and there's going to be certain things that you have to sacrifice, right? TV and whatever else. Might have to go work on a weekend one time, or a couple times a year, or a couple times a month, or whatever, in order to host an open house if you're a property manager or something like that, or get a call in the middle of the night if you're a maintenance guy. But like, I think depending on what the role is and what the expectation is set, you know, how does that look, and you can kind of weigh that out. So if you're looking to build out your team, if you're looking to hire, whether it's your first employee or your 10th employee or your 50th employee, you know, I think there's a few key things you got to be doing, which is screening your employees very well. Same way that you would screen a tenant, you screen your employees. Take a look at their background, take a look at what they've accomplished, ask them the hard questions, right? Paint that picture. And then once you hire that individual, you got to make sure that they're trained properly. I think a lot of times we hire somebody and then they don't meet our expectations because we expect them to know what we've learned over the past decade of being in the business. And it's like, dude, this person's, especially who came from a different industry into this, and you hired them for attitude, not skill set, you need to make sure that they're trained so that way they have the right tools and support while they're growing in that role. And I think that training piece, and then the ongoing communication, which is the measuring their progress, right? You can't manage what you don't measure. which is why metrics and KPIs are so important. Making sure you're measuring that progress on a weekly, monthly, quarterly basis, and annual basis. And so that way at the end of the year, a sit down, there's no surprises at a year-end sit down. There shouldn't be any surprises because you've accurately and proactively had conversations and talked through exactly what all the expectations were throughout the entire year. So that way nothing builds up, right? If the story builds up in your head, eventually there's a disparity of somebody has a story and they go that way and you have a story and you go this way, and then there's too much of a gap where because you didn't converse about it before, there's too much of a delta there where you can't get it back, you know? So make sure you're screening your employees, make sure you're training your employees, make sure you're measuring their performance and having that open dialogue with them. And again, what I learned from Tito Beveridge was hire for good attitude, hire good people for good attitude. You can always train on the skills and the talents and the tactical type stuff. That can all be taught. What you can't train is good attitude. So hopefully this is helpful for you. If you got any hacks on how you've hired people in the past and what you've seen with your own team members, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. So put it in the comment section below, share any gives that you might have. And if you would, please like the video, subscribe to the channel. We're always trying to put out more and more value to our members and to our subscribers. And if there's anything that you'd like to see us create a video on, please put it in the comment section below and we'll make a video just for you.